Thank you. And of course, I would like to thank you for the timely organization of this conference, because indeed we are, and this is what I'm going to talk a little bit about, we are in a crucial moment in the efforts for Roma inclusion in Europe. The first thing I would like to say is that I am not going to talk right now about Article 7.2. Already a number of people have talked about it, but mainly because I'm sitting next to the mother of Article 7.2, and I think that it is up to her to talk about the baby. Then, because the workshops are going to enter into the detail, but I would like to take the hint about the village, the coexistence village that was mentioned, because I come after 2 days in Ostrava, which were for me an extremely interesting occasion to see how precisely out of what is an isolated project we can now go into designing a fully scaled up, integrated housing project. Ostrava happens to have on the ground a really good field, having extremely good local civil society, having universities, having a municipality that is quite dedicated, and now already 13 years, 14 years of experience precisely of coexistence. In spite of that, and in spite of a number of extremely interesting things happening around, the mayor of Ostrava clearly told us that unfortunately all these initiatives have not managed to add up and to create yet the conditions for going a bit further. As a matter of fact, today, and Ostrava is a good example, but we have the same thing in many, many municipalities, the crisis being there, a lot of these initiatives are under threat, and we need to know that. So this Ostrava experience that was preceded also by an experience I had in Bulgaria shows that at municipality level, at local level, there is an extraordinary potential, there is will. So what is needed now is the commitment of the higher levels. I am sure that the Czech government is committed, but what I would like very much to drive today and to emphasize is the commitment of the European Union. And that is a fairly new thing. It is a fairly new thing because up to about a year ago, the Commission was not persuaded that it was necessary to act in, let's say, a proactive way and to take the initiative in this. And for this there was a particular reason, which was that we did not want to give the impression that the Roma issue is a European, an EU issue and not a national issue. We are, and on this I need to stress it, and I will stress it again and again. The primary responsibility vis-à-vis the Roma is the responsibility of the states of which the Roma are citizens. And it is as citizens that they have to be included in the effort for their own integration. That is why we have developed now the concept of the EU framework for national Roma inclusion strategies. Behind this barbaric term, I think that it is quite clear that what we want is to set the framework, and this framework will be a methodological but also a financial framework, but knowing very clearly that it is up to the member states to take the necessary steps. For this, it is not simply a matter of political things, it's also because the EU, as you know, is not competent, has no direct competence in practically all of the fields that relate to Roma inclusion, except for anti-discrimination. Housing, education, health, employment are national competences, and therefore our only way to influence, and this is the strategy that we have followed, our only way to influence and to have a leverage vis-à-vis the member states is to use the structural funds. So the extraordinary evolution of mentalities in the past year has to be underlined because I think that we have today the overall setting in which we can operate. Politically speaking, the Commission is preparing a communication. You have all heard about the task force work. This communication, I'm quite confident that will be an ambitious piece of political initiative, and it will put a lot of accent precisely on the issue of national strategies. This is interesting, especially as here we are talking about the decade experience, because one of the questions that have often been put is why the Roma decade has not had the impact on the ground that one would have expected from not only the ambition, the initial ambition, but also from the fact that for the first time member states, a number of states, did create national plans. How come these plans never resulted in a policy? Of course, as you say, it's a psychological, completely psychological question. No, it is quite clear that we cannot anymore continue, let's say, to have paper policy. And this paper policy, unfortunately, has been the standard in most of our member states. On the other hand, we need absolutely to benefit from the experience of the decade countries in this respect in order to create a new way of thinking about Roma inclusion, which will be real policy, a real policy framework with budgets attached to it, with phases of implementation, with real evaluation, with data collection linked to the operations. We don't want to have a large census, for God's sakes, but we do absolutely need, when we intervene somewhere where there is public intervention, to know what the correlation is between ethnic background discrimination and socioeconomic exclusion, and what the impact of the intervention will be. So all of these things are slowly coming together, and we have today an open field. This open field, I will add, at the EU level, the 2020 strategy and the anti-poverty, in particular the anti-poverty platform, the European Parliament's work in favor of Roma inclusion that will find its, I think, first conclusion in the report that Livia Jaroka is going to present next month to the Parliament. And then you all know about the Hungarian presidency and the priority on Roma inclusion. We have never had this kind of conjunction of stars and planets. So my real desire today, and the desire of the Commission, is to see the maximum of mobilization from the ground. If we don't have demand, if we don't have the proof that at ground level, at local level, the authorities are ready and willing to engage in what will be, in all cases, long processes. These will not be short projects, these will be long projects. So the engagement is an engagement for 10 years. We need to have that in mind. We need to have in mind that we will have to prepare well. We'll need to have in mind that we'll have to accompany. Housing is one element, it's the pivotal element around which we can work, but housing in itself does not resolve problems, and people will need to be accompanied once they are in their houses in order to enter mainstream economy and mainstream society. So there is a lot of work to be done. Most of these things are, I think, extremely novel. Therefore, it will be very important to have the maximum of exchange of information on what works, on what doesn't work, on new ways of using what we know already, because we are not going to find out new things. We know already basically everything, but it is how to put things together that will be changing. And also the necessary flexibility to see things as they will evolve. We cannot know today, if we start the program, what the situation will be 5 years or 10 years. So we need to build all of this with a necessary flexibility. Finally, of course, Article 7.2 is very clearly targeting marginalized communities. So in this sense, it is an anti-poverty instrument. But we should never forget that Roma inclusion is not simply an anti-poverty issue. Reducing Roma inclusion to anti-poverty issue would be the worst thing to do, because I don't think that we can mobilize our Roma friends by saying, come over because you are the vulnerable ones, the marginalized ones, so we take care of you. No, it cannot work like that. And therefore, Roma inclusion strategies need to be on a much larger, more comprehensive approach. They need to have a very strong anti-discrimination element, because whatever the situation, we should never forget that one large, essential reason for the exclusion of the Roma is discrimination and racism. And this is something that is a parameter that we cannot and we should never neglect. So, in conclusion, I would like to invite you to enter into really concrete thinking, to go now beyond simply studies, researches, papers, and conferences. It's very good to have many of them, but I would like really to see in the next few months demand from municipalities, demand from local authorities for help. The Commission is ready to provide help and advice. And I would hope that by the end of this year, we will have already some pilot programs beginning and ready to be launched. This is going to be all the more important as Article 7.2 is under scrutiny. If we don't use it well in this programming period, we are not sure to have it in the next programming period. Therefore, this is my call to you. Most of you are practitioners on the field. Pass the message and let us start the work. Thank you.